Hello, everyone, and welcome to Snap Take. This is Glazer of Snap Judgments, the official podcast of Marvel Snap Zone. Today, we've got 4 brand new decks for you, decks that can take the meta by storm before the meta gets ready. We've got one from Safetyblade, which I've been getting easy wins with all day. We've got Ika's Leechhawk, we've got Lauren's Valkyrie deck, and a surprise deck that a viewer sent me after last video. Welcome to the channel. Hope you hit that sub button, like, comment, ring that bell. We bring you at least 3 brand new decks every single weekday and pretty much every frickin' Sunday too. It's completely free for you to support us. It means the world to us. We just hit 7,000. We're aiming for 8. Let's do this. We also maintain a giveaway sheet for all of our viewers, for basically anyone in the Marvel Snap community. We get nothing out of this sheet. It's just a nice way for you to see what free stuff the different community members are offering. A friend of ours, Banshee, helps keep it updated. Thank you so much, Banshee. If you would like to find some cool creators to follow and get some free stuff, check out the sheet. It's linked in the description to this video. Our basic outline for today, we're beginning with questions of the day. From there, we're going to Safetyblade deck. Then we're going to do a last day review of Blob. Blob will be out of the spotlights tomorrow. So this is our last day review. We've got Ika's deck. Ika is a phenomenal streamer. We'll talk more about each creator as we get there. We've got a deck from Lauren whatever. Marvel Snaps. Oh, excuse me. We've got a pro tip. Then we've got a deck from Lauren whatever. Lauren whatever is the person who did most of the work in figuring out how spotlight caches work and what the math was for them over on Marvel Snap Zone. Then we've got a surprise secret viewer deck after the bundle guide for Rip and Tear. A pretty solid bundle. Spoiler alert. Finally, we'll end the day, as always, with looking at my shop. All right, questions of the day. So first, a lot of people in the comments sort of yelled at me. I apologized last video. I do a giveaway whenever, well, I do several giveaways, right? I always do a giveaway. We give away 15 season passes every month. And then usually every 1,000 subs, I do like a 1,000 subs celebration giveaway. I really enjoy doing it. It's something I like. So I apologize for not being able to do it this month because I want to spoil my son a little extra for Christmas. And a lot of the comments were like, "You don't owe us anything. It's the content." And like, I know that. I totally appreciate that. Thank you. I don't think I'm doing giveaways because I think I owe you. I'm also not really doing giveaways to grow. I know that that's like what a lot of people think. I'm doing giveaways because I like giving back to the community. You guys are offering me a lot of support. Um, I know that like these relationships can tend to be parasocial and really strange, right? But I appreciate the support, the comments, the likes. Like it really does help make my days better. And um, if I'm going to financially benefit from it, then I want to be giving back to the community as much as possible. So like it's not an owe anybody thing. Um, I don't think I owe my viewers, and I hope you don't feel like you owe me. Like we're here to hang out, talk about Marvel Snap, a game that we love, and spread some knowledge, spread some joy, and have a good time being kind to each other. But one part of that for me is where possible, I like to throw in that giveaway. So I can't for this one. I will get back to it next month, and not because I owe you or you owe me, but because I want to. And sometimes it's nice to do nice things for people. All right, JJ Brucey slides in with some Lambie fam advice from the Master Lambie. So I love this one. A friend of mine, you know who you are, asked me for a saying at the end of the game to get them to retreat. And of course, why didn't I just ask Lambie in the first place? JJ Brucey says Lambie's saying is curiosity will never win you cubes. Instead of wondering what they have, just get out of there. Your curiosity is going to cost you cubes, not win you cubes. It doesn't matter what they had. What they had beat you. Move on. All right. The other thing to ask right before the last turn is how do I lose? And if you can figure out how you lose, you should probably go, do they have that? Is that what this deck does? And then run. If you say, how do I lose? And you go, oh, okay, that this deck doesn't run the things that beat me or the power here and here, then you stay in. Cool. Love that advice. You love to see it. It's almost like a bonus pro tip we get from Lambie today. It's good because the pro tip is going to make some of you yell at me later on. So I'm happy that we got this nice, cool Lambie one at the beginning. Jason Salazar wants to know if I collect comics. And nope, not since my comic shop closed in, I don't know, 2008, 2009. I read comics off and on throughout all my youth. I read all the early Image stuff because I was a '90s kid. I read X-Men. Never really got as into Spider-Man as others. I read a lot of Avengers stuff. I read a lot of Thor stuff. And I read like JSA, JLA, all that DC stuff. Around the New 52, whatever year that was, I liked like four of the New 52 books. And then they canceled the like four I liked. So there was this one. All I remember about it is it was like a mystical thing that I really enjoyed. There were four that I really loved. They canceled them, and they kept going a bunch of like really, really kind of what I thought were at the time terrible comics. Sorry if you like them. I did not. So I bounced off DC, and then when I was just buying for Marvel and like my comic shop was closed, it became kind of annoying to like keep up. So I slowly read less and less and less. I do read behind and like not in any real order the current X books because I really love Jonathan Hickman. I loved Nightly News. I loved Pax Romana. So I love Jonathan Hickman. His Fantastic Four run is one of my favorite runs ever. I've kept up with like various books throughout the years. So when he came back to X-Men, I jumped back in. I read it now. I bought it for a while, but now I just keep up on Marvel Unlimited. I don't really need to keep up with it, but I really, really love the Hickman X-Men stuff and the Fallout of Krakoa. We'll see if I stick around now that the Krakoa era is ending. But that's all I really read. I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff I like. I know that I love Al Ewing, and I've heard amazing things about Immortal Hulk. I know that's a few years old now, and I'm sure there's like constant great work going on. It's not like the medium is dying or anything, but time, right? Like so much of my life is dedicated by how much free time I have nowadays. Um, Over Christmas break, my one goal outside of obviously continuing to do this, well, I guess I have two goals. All right, I have two goals. My like snap goal, my new snap goal, because there's always a new snap goal, is I'm going to start a Patreon for this channel, and I want to make it like super worth it for people. So, one of my question of the days for you guys relatively soon is going to be, what would you like to see from the Patreon, so that I can better like make it worth your while for anyone who's considering joining. That's like not my personal goal. My personal goal is um my Christmas present to myself was Star Ocean 2, the remake, and I've heard nothing but incredible things about it. It's one of the few PS1 games that like I really, really wanted to play that I never got to. So I want to find time, carve time out for myself to play that in between hanging out with my son and doing Snap stuff. So that's where we are right now. If you have any more questions, if you'd like to have your question read out in tomorrow's video, please leave it in the comments. Thank you. Our first deck is Safetyblade's Pure Judgment. First of all, the Snapping. I don't know if you know the Snapping. It's like a Marvel Snap comedy show. Their main episodes are amazing. Their daily stuff is good, but their main episodes are amazing. They did a video on this already, so make sure you check that out. Also, I'm on their show, I think, as of Friday night. So if you want to check that out too, um, feel free. Cool. So this deck is the easiest wins in the game. You know when you're going to win, and your opponent does not. So it's super easy to snap and retreat with. You retreat when you don't see your stuff, and if you see your stuff, like unless they suddenly have Enchantress, and very few decks are running Enchantress, you just win. Your basic idea is to get Iron Man, Onslaught, and Tribunal into one lane. If you do that, you win most games. It's really, really fun to do that because the Thanos Blob decks that are running around everywhere, they Professor X lane, right? But that lane is barely won, so you win that lane with your Tribunal stuff. And then their Blob wins one lane, like, because it's like 60 power, but they're not running Tribunal, so their other lane has a decent amount of power in it, but not 30, right? And then you win that lane, and it's over. You can also win by going, like, I've won a couple games by going Ms. Marvel into Mystique into Onslaught and just saying, I've got, I ended up having something else. What was it? Probably like a Ravona in the center lane, whatever it was. But you have like 12 in the middle. Let's just pretend that there was nothing else important. You have like 12 in the middle, and then you have 20 in both side lanes, and that's pretty damn good. It's a pretty nice way to win some games of Marvel Snap. Wouldn't you say? Let's keep going. So Howard can be Nebula, Echo, or Jeff, and I'm worried those were all Series 5 cards. Sorry. It could just be something like Iceman. Honestly, it's an extra card in the deck. It's not the most important thing what that is. Like Howard is nice for Jubilee and Iron Lad, but you're not playing them if you don't see them. It's a perfectly fine card that you don't really have to stress one way or the other. Cool. The reason I like a one drop there though is because a lot of your other spots on the curve are really taken. If you have Ravonna or Zabu, odds are you have something to play on turn 3 or 4. And then turn 5 and 6 like get very crowded. I could see some argument for something like Claw instead of Howard, but I'd probably prefer not. You're gonna need Ravonna, Zabu, and Tribunal. I'm really sorry. Iron Lad can be Crystal, but yo, I know that like you can get Ravonna and Tribunal and play this now if you have Zabu, right? But I still think getting Iron Lad and Black Knight is better, even if this deck is really easy. Although if you are struggling to get Infinite, this is I think one of the easiest decks in Marvel Snap right now to get Infinite with. Bots can't do anything with this, right? And opponents pre-infinite have no idea what you're doing. You're not seeing a lot of enchantress, right? And you're just gonna roll face over people. Okay. Turn 1, you quack if you can. Turn 2, Ravonna or Zabu based on what's in hand. If you have Ms. Marvel, maybe you want Zabu. If you're if you know you're gonna magic and you have Iron Man in hand, then maybe you want to drop Ravonna so you can make Iron Man cheaper or Mystique cheaper, etc. Turn 3, Magic or 4. Turn 4, Iron Man, Magic or 4. Same thing, turn 5. Sorry, there's not much to say. You're just trying to build toward that idea of Onslaught, 6, Tribunal, 7. Be wary of their negative bull. The negative bull stuff will be annoying, but not the end of the world. Oh, I guess that could be something Howard could be. Howard could be either Luke or for like a last turn swing, or something like oh wow! I just had a second idea along with Luke and it's kind of or Shadow King, because Shadow King can reset your negative power stuff and just get a nice like boost for your and ruin their day. And then turn 6 Onslaught, turn 7 Tribunal, and you just have like 25 power in each lane and you win usually. You can also go Ms. Marvel, Onslaught, Mystique, all center, and you can have 20 in both side lanes, assuming you can get like Howard, then you have 22 in that one of those lanes. And I don't know, let's say Zabu in the other, and then you have 22 in that lane too. That usually wins. It doesn't always win, but it usually wins. Cool. All right. Uh this is a 10 hit deck. It's beautiful and I love it, and this is my favorite like looking deck ever. I bought the hip Howard. I'm still waiting to get the gold border, but I'm almost there. I've got the Ms. Marvel Mystique as the non-hip because I'm running Ms. Marvel, so like they go together. I decided on this magic. Just I don't know. It felt like it fit the vibe better than the Fire Swordy one or the Midnight Suns one. Everything else is a hip, isn't it pretty? I bought that hip Jubilee, and I'm sorry I didn't buy it sooner because animated it is gorgeous. This is some of my favorite hips in the game. Zabu and Ravonna hips are two of my favorites. Cosmo hip is freaking adorable. We're all about this. I'm just saying, we're all about the look of this deck. Hopefully you are too. There is a hip Mystique. It's not out yet. There is not a hip Magic. This could be an all hip deck one day. Live the dream. All right, last day Blob review time. This is the Blob. It came out on 12/12 at 6/5, 6,000 tokens. On reveal, merge your deck into this and gain its total power. Ongoing can't be moved. Blob reshaped the meta in a day, right? It kicked Darkhawk out until we look at the next deck. It it fundamentally remade Thanos. It has a ton of Hella decks. It's a top-notch card. It is, I think, in my current opinion, and you can listen to Snapchat's podcast, which will be out about noon on Sunday over on the Marvel Snaps on YouTube. We did our top 10 cards in all of Marvel Snap. That Blob was like my number 6 card. Would I rather have Blob than Iron Lad? That's where we run into trouble, right? I don't think the answer to that question is yes. I think Blob is better in Thanos. If you have Thanos, I would strongly consider getting Blob because then you have a deck. But outside of that, like, okay, if here, let's do it this way. Um, if you have Iron Lad or Black Knight, I think it's reasonable to open for Blob. Cool. If you, I think Blob is definitely better than Black Knight, although I think Black Knight is severely underrated, one of the better like one drops in the game, probably top 25-ish card. I don't think Blob is as good as Iron Lad, but if you want to play decks with Blob, then I understand getting Blob over Lad. Cool. Ideally, you can get Blob and then still have enough caches for Lad and Black Knight, but obviously there's no guarantee of that. Blob is awesome, particularly with Thanos. If you don't have Thanos, I don't think he's super necessary. I think he's necessary if you really, really want to play Thanos, if you really, really want to play his decks. Cool. He is an excellent card who reshaped the meta with amazing design. You can literally watch multiple videos this week for other thoughts about Blob, but I think Blob is just short of must have. Um, he's worse than Release Alive, right? But he is probably the current best 6-drop in the game, or at least very close with Doctor Doom. He's better than Current Alive. His ability is why he's better than Current Alive, though, right? Um, Current Alive needs priority, or it does nothing. It's a blank card. Blob gets Blob also needs priority, right? Um, well, I guess Blob doesn't need priority, but Blob also gets priority fairly often because Blob absorbs your deck, which means you're playing a lot of high power cards, and a lot of high power cards tend to mean you're going first. So that means you have priority, and Alive doesn't. Is vulnerable to Shang, yes. Is vulnerable to Shadow King, yes. There's ways to protect from one, it's very hard to protect from both. But like ultimately, I just think he's really great and probably worth it, right? Like he's not a perfect card, he's not an unbeatable card. I don't think those exist. I mean, like maybe original Zabu, original Surfer, and original Loki, and original Elsa, which would be like my pick for the 4 best cards ever. Like we're close enough to unbeatable that like whatever, right? Blob is nowhere near those. He's a top tier card. Um, he's worse than Werewolf in my opinion. He's worse than Goliath in my opinion, or original Goliath, and he's better than Colonel Goliath. I think Iron Lad is still better than him. I think he's better than Black Knight. I think that he's definitely better than Nico. If you're playing Totem for Nico, get Blob. Um, is he more important than Jeff? I think that's around where he is. I think he's probably a little better than Jeff, although it's close. Cool. That's my Blob take. That's my Blob advice. If you're not sure if you should open for Blob, I'll tell you what. Hop on the Marvel Snap Zone Discord. You can send me your collection through Marvel Snap Zone and your like spotlight key spending habits, and I'll give you a yes or no personally for your choice of Blob. Cool. Let's keep going. This is Ika's Leechhawk. I watched Devilish play this for 2 hours when I was supposed to be writing an article earlier today, and this deck is completely freaking sick. How do I put this? Leech is broken right now. See that new card that's really, really strong that you want to play on turn 6? Well, Leech says that's a 6/4 that's blank, right? Uh, all the Professor X everywhere. Well, A, you have to draw it through the core, the Black Widow, and the Rock Slide. And B, if I like, I've got Ms. Marvel to contest that lane. I've got Darkhawk to contest the lane if I can figure out where it is. And now you have a problem, right? If you're playing a bunch of stones, Killmonger answers that. Leech wrecks a lot of bounce strategies last turn plays. This is very, very strong right now. Your opponent wants a Doom. No, no, no. Only you get to Doom, right? They're going to be stuck playing a 5-cost card or hopefully top decking something you can. And let's say they drop Blob on 5. Well, you have Shadow King and Shang-Chi. One of the two very likely makes Blob useless. This deck is like really strong and one of the best things I've seen in the meta. Darkhawk was dead for a week. So someone in my comments last week, and if it was you, comment today, and I will give you credit tomorrow, I promise, told me that Leech would just keep Darkhawk alive, and I didn't think it could, but I didn't accurately understand. My big mistake, honestly, was I didn't accurately understand how much Blob was going to change things. Like, this is so good against Lockdown and Storm nonsense that it's really, really powerful. It's also got, like, because of Killmonger, some reasonable play into the bounce decks that are everywhere, and it can steal priority against them, which means Shadow King and that Wolf for the end of the game wins those bounce matches too. That's a lot of different things this is really powerful against. So, like, including the 2 best decks in the meta. Stuff like Loki threw this out of the game for a while, but it's back. And you should definitely be looking into this deck if you have the right cards. And the right cards are Zabu and Darkhawk. You need Zabu and Darkhawk. Ms. Marvel is great, particularly into Lockdown, but it can also be Super Skrull or Mystique or Absorbing Man. So, if it's Super Skrull, what you're saying is when they Professor X me, I'm going to play Super Skrull elsewhere and lock down another lane, and then we each just trade lanes. And if you had Killmonger, you have a reasonable chance of yours winning. If you're playing Absorb Man, what you're saying is I'm just gonna copy Rock Slide. And if you're playing Mystique, what you're saying is at the end of the game, I want to be able to have 2 Darkhawks. All of these things are very powerful. Cool. Next up, this is 72% win rate. This is the one from the thumbnail. It is 50-19 right now. That's a little silly. So, okay. Korg is turn 1. It's the only turn 1. Turn 2 is Zabu over Widow usually. Turn 3 is Rock Slide over Widow, but don't sleep on Widow. Over Killmonger, unless it's against Thanos, then Killmonger goes right up that list, versus a 4-drop. The 4-drop of choice for me is usually Iron Lad here, although it could be Ms. Marvel. Turn 4, I want to play Ms. Marvel or Lad. Turn 5, if Leech is going to stomp them and I have enough power on the board, just play Leech. Snap before Leech, please. That is your snap condition. So many decks are not expecting Leech that it just completely turns off their nonsense. Like that first deck beats almost everything when it goes off, but Leech just absolutely wrecks it. Face slams it. Turn 6, Doom or Darkhawk and Shadow King, or like whatever combination of plays you can. If you have Zabu out, obviously that changes to like Darkhawk and Shang-Chi, right? Darkhawk and Shadow King is fine. Just dropping Doom is fine. Dropping Ms. Marvel and Shadow King is fine. Dropping Ms. Marvel and you get like dropping Darkhawk and Rockslide. You can do whatever combo you want based on the condition of the board. If they're staying in and know that they think they can win after that Leech, though, right? Like, so take your time for turn 6. Make sure they're actually staying in. Figure out why they're staying in. Look at the board, consider what they have, consider the deck, consider why they're staying in. There's a reasonable amount of the time that you'll end up retreating if they stay in after Leech, but most of the time they're just running on Leech. It works like Galactus, where you just get your damn 2 cubes and move on with life. And if like they're staying in, say, okay, they're staying in because they have X. Can I beat it? The answer is yes, stay in. Do the how can I lose? What did they top deck? Oh, this is not quite as beautiful, although I do have the hip Leech. It didn't want to show up on the deck builder, and I got sick of fighting with it. This is a much lighter hip deck. We've only got Korg, Widow, Zabu, Leech, Lad, Ms. Marvel. Oh, wait, 6. Killmonger, 7. That's still great. Forget I said anything. I got the Jacinto Shang-Chi. I like it a lot. I need to get it with a gold background. I will soon. I also love this Darkhawk, best Shadow King in the game. Rock, Paper, Scissors, Slide for Merry Christmas. And Emperor Doom. Favorite Doom. Ooh. Okay, the Marvel Snap Pro tip. This is from Safety. It's not the deck, it's you. The deck doesn't hit infinite, you hit infinite. The deck doesn't win the game, you win the game. Sometimes that's obviously not true, but in a large enough sample, the best players win a lot. There's top players that play Shuri, there's top players that play Hela, there's top players that played frickin' Bizarre Zoo. There's people that play only meta decks that struggle to get to infinite. This is not meant to make you feel bad. This is stop staring at those cards you don't have and wishing you had them. You can hit infinite. It's you, not the deck. You can do it. Someone in a video a few days ago said, you can only climb with 1 or 2 things in this meta. Nothing else works. And I get told that every month. Bluntly, I get told that every month. Someone every single month goes, you have to have this to climb. This month, I hit infinite with a Black Knight auto build deck. Right? Last month, I hit infinite with a Series 3 Bast Patriot deck. All Series 3 cards. Month before that, I used a Loki because Loki bounce was crazy fun. I was enjoying myself too much. Sorry. Month before that, I hit it with Loki, but I was playing Galactus, and it was really a Galactus deck. Month before that was a Thanos move list that was a Spider-Man 2099 list. You can do it. Play well. There's a whole playlist linked somewhere in this video, who knows where, of pro tips. Memorize the pro tips, write them down, practice them one at a time, internalize them. You can do it. Whatever deck you have, hitting infinite is about a positive cube rate in above 50% win rate. You can do that, and you have the time, you're going to hit infinite. You got this. Stop stressing the deck. Focus on what you're doing with it. Cool. Lauren, Infinite Valk Ex Machina. This is our friend Lauren whatever's deck, and I love it so much. It is bonkers how fun this deck is. It has a silly number of plays. There's exactly one card I don't like in it. Drax the Conqueror, but everything else about this deck is a joy to play. And Lauren's brilliant and fantastic at Marvel Snap. Okay, let's talk about how to play this deck. Um, oh wait, first let's talk about replacements. Excuse me. So Echo's pretty good, but Mojo or Luke will do. Jeff can be Nightcrawler, and I think I like Rescue over Drax because Rescue into Professor X is really, really strong. Lauren hit Infinite with this. Lauren's been working on Valkyrie decks forever. She hits Infinite basically every month now, and when possible, she does it using a Valkyrie deck. Turn 1, Echo, middle, if you can. If you have armor in hand, you really want Echo and then armor. You can Hood. Hood is awesome because it loses you priority, and if your opponent doesn't know you're a Valkyrie deck on ladder, it's an amazing spot to Valkyrie, or just drop Ant-Man. People are generally going to assume ongoing. Really good players will see Ant-Man and then not other ongoing cards and mentally recorrect into Valkyrie, but it's rare. Okay. Turn 2 armor or 2 ones, but make sure you're holding demon because demon after Valky is unbelievable. Turn 3 is storm is your ideal play, especially if you have Juggernaut in hand. Storm into Drax is perfectly fine. Mr. Fantastic is also really good. Turn 4 is Juggernaut or Drax. Drax is here because it splits the difference for after the storm play instead of just going into Professor X. But I still like. Do I like Rescue more? It's really close. This is a hard one. Whatever. Fine, Lauren, you win. All right, turn 5, Professor X on Drax if you didn't storm, or you just try and like find a lane alone to Professor X. If you want a storm lane, you're just trying to get lucky and sort of close the game out with the Professor. If you don't, oh well. If not, you drop Gamora and just say, okay, I have a big thing there. They can try and go over the top. And if they do that, they're not playing in another spot, and then your Valkyrie and Demon can win the game. Nice and simple, right? This deck is about knowing your game and knowing your opponent and being patient and throwing priority. If you want to learn how to throw priority, this is the deck for you. It will teach you. Hood is awesome for throwing priority. Jeff is amazing for throwing priority. Use them to do so. Win games, win cubes. Some variants to talk about. We've got Noir Hood. I decided to not go hip here. We are hip free, I believe. Nope, Jeff is Jeff hip because that's the only Jeff variant I have. We have Ant-Man running from the bullets. I like it. Echo's one of the last 4 frickin' cards I need a variant for. One has to just show up in the shop. We've got the best armor in the game. We just said Hip Jeff. I really like this Mr. Fantastic. I know people think it's gross, but I enjoy it. I also like that I have a blade thing going with that Mr. Fantastic and Drax. This Drax feels like Kratos from God of War for me. I threw in Hellfire Gala Professor X. We've got Rion Valkyrie, which is my favorite Valkyrie. I think it's gorgeous. The Gamora we got from the Spotlight Cache, Mech Hulk, and Savage Land Storm. All right, this is the Rip and Tear bundle for 1,200 gold. You get the Elektra Demonized variant, 2,000 credits, 155 Elektra boosters, and an avatar. So this is middling value. However, 1,200 gold is what you play for a certain like style of variant, right? Like if you wanted an Archer variant, for example, you're basically always spending 1,200 gold. Well, you get a variant of high quality here and 2,000 credits. That's a pretty good deal. And the boosters, but like whatever for boosters. And that's a pretty good deal. Is this worth it? Sure, if you like the variant, and the credits are definitely worth it, right? Like if you would buy this variant in the shop for 1,200, there's no reason not to buy this because you also get 2,000 credits. However, Sugar and Spice and Everything Ice is still coming out in about a week. So that one is 7,500 gold for the best value in the game. So maybe if you're saving up for that, don't spend on this, obviously, right? So if that's your goal, assuming that the data mines were right on that, everyone will be happy, right? Save your gold, skip this. It's a good deal, but it's not a must-have. That's my take. If you would buy this in the shop and you're not saving for Sugar and Spice, go for it. If not, don't bother. There are better places to spend gold that will come up soon. All right, our final deck So Brian Aguiar sent me this deck after commenting on Friday's video. Sent me the stats on it, and I only got to play it for 2 games. So I'm not swearing by this deck. That's why it's a 4th deck, partially. Sorry, Brian. But I bet you we can get our stats up with it together. This deck is really cool. It's obviously a Blob Thanos deck, but you might notice that we're not dealing with any Professor X nonsense. Instead, we have almost like a mix of Shuri Red Skull and Sarah control. Um, we just have options. This deck has optionality. The Invisible Woman is a stroke of genius to me, especially when not played on 2, played on more like 3 or 4. Okoye is really, really strong here too. So basically, you're using the blob to like close the game, but you would really prefer to do it on like a turn 5 or behind an Invisible Woman so it can't get like shellacked. But you've also got Shang and Enchantress to make your life easier. So if you can get out like a Red Skull, a Typhoid, or a Lizard, and especially if you do the middle where they might play, for example, a Ms. Marvel, and then you Enchantress there, well, guess what? You've probably won that lane because Enchantress plus Typhoid plus Lizard is 20. You've also got a Shang for stuff like that, and you can blob elsewhere. You can drop Thanos elsewhere or Red Skull elsewhere for an absolute ton of power. Maximus is incredible behind Invisible Woman, but also really, really, really great if your opponent's planning on blobbing. It just says, and they're not Thanos, it just says you only have 1 card in that deck. That blob is now usually pretty terrible. It's a lot. It's really, really strong. Shadow King to end the game is also incredible. Never sleep on Shadow King plus Shang or Enchantress, and here you have all of those combos. If you can do that play on turn 6 where you make Lizard, Typhoid, and Enchantress, and you have that 20 power lane, and you Shadow King somewhere else, and there's a blob elsewhere, enjoy your victory. You have won this game of Marvel Snap. All right, you need to have Thanos and Blob. Everything else is series 3 or lower. You do need 0 though. Like, don't play this without 0. 0 super, super important here. Again, 2 whole games, but 0 is used a lot. Like, and when I didn't have 0, I was like, I need 0. All right, so that's not the win rate for this. Whatever. The win rate for this is about 80% right now. I had the stats. I don't know what I did with them, but the win rate's really, really high. Cool. So turn 1, draw, save time, and try and save Time Stone because Time Stone on turn 4 is incredible. Turn 2, acquire Invisible Woman. Turn 3, acquire Invisible Woman. You can also drop 0 here if you're planning to Typhoid, or just 0 and Lizard is perfectly fine. Turn 4, Time Stone for Blob or Thanos, early behind Invisible Woman. You can also cheat Red Skull out middle to Enchantress later. So if you went Time Stone on 3, if you had Red Skull in hand, because now you're going to Red Skull and like let them challenge that Red Skull because they're like, oh, he doesn't have the negative thing, right? He's only 14 power. Well, then you Enchantress that and you're just way ahead of the game. Turn 5, Blob or Thanos if you can. Obviously, Red Skull is also fine. If you went Lizard, sorry, you can go 0 Typhoid here. You're just trying to get some power out here. Turn 6, I generally prefer to get Blob out on 5, but there's times it's Blob on 6, right? Obviously. You can also go Shang, Enchantress, or Shadow King, or 0 and Red Skull, just right there. Boom. That 17 power play. The last turn is real, real nice. There's a lot of ways to win games of Marvel Snap with this deck. You just have to read the board and your hand. It's real, real cool. Variants. This is the only 0 I have. It's perfectly fine. I don't love any of the 0s. This Okoye came from the Black Panther season. We've got Alex Ross, Invisible Woman. The only Lizard I have, although it's very cool looking. Best Shadow King. This Maximus I've always wanted. I just opened in a cache recently. I threw in Sylvie Enchantress. I don't know why we have the same Shang, but we do. I felt like it looked good with Sylvie. We've got Hip Typhoid, our only Hip here, although we could have Hip Blob. I have Hip Blob too. I decided to go with amazing Hellfire Gala Blob. Screw Red Skull. I'm sick of talking about him. Down with Nazis in general and in specific. And then I've got this beautiful Thanos, which I have gold with purple crackle. It's my favorite variant. All right. That's today's decks. We are now on to today's shop. So let's talk about my shop for the day. I'm not spending anything on pixels. I was very close to buying the Rion Jeff, but honestly, I'm never gonna play it over the hip, so it felt like a waste of time. Um, I have a Shadow King I like better than this weird revealed one. It's not like ugly, but like I like the other one better. Um, I have the hip for Cosmo, so again, I'd never play the Venomized. Why spend gold on it? Uh, I have the hip for Widow. I also have the Peach Momoko for Widow, so like there's extra no chance of Nullified getting played. This Peach Momoko cap is glorious, but the Chris Samney one I have has like a like rainy background, and it's one of my favorite things in the game, and I love it so much that I'm not gonna ever change it. Um, I will probably buy the hip for the Cosmo emote. I know that I'm not supposed to do that, and that's bad economics, but it's a hip. I won't do that for anything but hips, but for hips I will. As you can see, since I bought the hip Shuri, I literally already have my favorite Shuri in the game, the Black Panther one, but it's a hip, and I've decided to buy all the hips. And that Shuri was my whatever number variant, 12th variant. So guess what? I got this really, really cool Mr. Negative. That's my new favorite Mr. Negative I have. It just came with the extra 2,000 tokens that I'll never need. So that is what I've got. If you made it this far, thank you so much, y'all, for watching. I greatly appreciate you. I'll see you tomorrow for 3 more decks and another snap take. I've already got the decks built. See you then. Peace.